Me to engage as well. I got a warning last night that the engagement wasn't good on the TikTok, so make sure if you can to engage, like, share, subscribe, all of those things. Hit the button. All right, perfect. We are going to get started in a few moments. Hey, Jana, good to see you. All right, perfect. We are on live now, and we are about to get started into Intro to Holistic Medicine 2. I am going to grab my earbuds, which were right in, hey, Edward, which are right in arm's reach, which I love when a plan comes together. Let me go ahead and set this really quick. Turn this off. All right, beautiful. That way it doesn't interfere. Let me go ahead and put these in. All right. I think that should be good. I'm just finishing up on tech support with the online store. I'm not outside. I have an open air house in my house. So I am in St. Lucia. So we have our windows open. And so you can hear all the crickets and the wildlife. So yeah, it's pretty far out, actually. It's pretty amazing. Very peaceful, very relaxing. Especially if it rains, then we have our tin roof. Hello, Chastity. I got your email. I'm working through tech support right now, back and forth. So once I resolve it, I'll respond. Yeah. So an open air house. Hey, Waverly is like, it's more like connected to nature. So it's like open air, so like windows and stuff, and that's kind of more or less where we get our filtration. One of these days, I think I'll put in like maybe like AC unit, that sort of thing. But for the most part, it's all natural air, and it breezes through, and it's just really connected to nature. That's all I can say. Hey, Waverly, good to see you, my dear. Very good. All right, cool. So we're going to get started today. Welcome to week 1 of Intro to Holistic Medicine. This class is all about detoxification and elimination. So remember, in our last class, it was all about nutrient deficiencies. And so we're going to begin to build upon those concepts of nutrient deficiencies. Hello, Beverly, welcome in, and build that in. Yes, definitely. I would say because the slides are better on the YouTube. All right, cool. So this is HHS 102, Intro to Holistic Medicine 2. I am your professor. It's missing some of my letters, so it's fine. This class is going to be about an hour long. It's more of kind of a instructional class to kind of make sure we're all on the same page. We'll have a deeper class on Saturday where we will review the additional information. So welcome in to week 1. Hey, Daphne. Great. I love it. I love being able to move around. So, Intro to Holistic Medicine 2, Detoxification and Elimination Pathways. I am your professor for this class, Dr. Erica Steele. I'm sure you're familiar with my background, but I'll go over it for anybody who's not familiar. So, I was in family practice for 15 years. During that time, I worked with a lot of people on detoxification protocols and helping them to really follow therapeutic order when they're detoxifying. I learned a lot of things about what is actually in a person's body and what things need to be detoxed out and how to do that in a safe manner. So we'll start kind of low and slow. That'll be our mantra. Hello, Yafa, that we'll be going over low and slow. But tonight we're going to be reviewing our syllabus, our course overview. We'll be addressing any billing concerns, any registration questions, and we'll start to get into week 1, detoxification overview, as well as therapeutic order. So follow in. This class will be recorded, so you will have access to it after the class. All right, so what to expect in this class is a 12-week structure. We have weekly video lessons. So this class is one class on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Typically, this is about an hour class. And then we have a longer class, about a 2-hour class on Saturday. That class is from 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to about 1-ish. So like, and I say ish because sometimes we would end early. We wouldn't really end late. It's a standard 2-hour class. It's booked for that long. So there are weekly video lessons that after the class is done, I leave them up on YouTube for about a week, maybe a little bit less. And then I will pull them down off of YouTube and put them in the course shell. So you'll have access to them to be able to go watch the replays on YouTube. And then after, we start the new week, that's when we will then put it on the course shell and it won't be available. Every single week, I will record 6 videos that accompany. So those will stay on YouTube and they're just short video clippets. This week, I'll be doing them a little bit later. So they'll probably come out on Saturday just because I've been pushing out other content as well. And so there are 3 major assignments in this particular course, which we'll go over. And then there's weekly discussion topics. I will go ahead and go into the communities this evening and structure those out, just wanting to make sure that those are in good shape. Participation and engagement is required for this course. And so there's a weekly discussion topic. And then I do encourage you to also initiate, comment, like, share the videos that I put out that are related to the content for this particular week, just to be able to share and keep the communication and the dialogue going so that I can assess that you're actually engaging in the course material. So a few milestones here. At the 4th week, you'll be submitting your subjective and objective data. So remember, in the foundational classes, we really focus in on a subjective, which is the nuanced data. In this particular course, we're going to be using a detoxification questionnaire. If you're familiar from our previous, our Hey Touted Kisses, our previous Intro to Holistic Medicine 1, we used a nutritional assessment questionnaire. In this particular course, we'll be using a detoxification questionnaire. So it'll be a front and back page, just 2 pages that you'll receive. This time I'm going to post it early. So I'm actually going to post it this week, but it's not actually due until the 4th week. And that just gives you time to review the information and to complete it, fill it out, etc. So that subjective data goes over kind of the nuanced information, meaning like any signs, symptoms, etc., that you may or may not have thought about. Remember, holistic medicine is all about building awareness to your body and connecting your signs and your symptoms to what could be causing the signs or symptoms. So remember, we're dealing with root cause, more proactive instead of reactive. So not running and chasing symptoms and frantically supplementing because of those. So we first gather the information from subjective. We are also in the first 4 weeks, we're going to be tracking our elimination. So we will kind of start talking about this today, but we'll be tracking our urine color. We'll be looking at the Bristol stool metric as well. And we'll be looking at our sweat as another elimination, because these are all specimens of our elimination. We're not going to be taking any specimens. We're just going to be observing and really building that awareness too. Our objective data that we're going to use in this class is going to be our urinary pH. If you remember from the first nutritional assessment questionnaire, we focused on salivary pH and digestion. In this class, we're going to focus mainly on urinary because the kidneys are a primary eliminatory organ. And then we're also going to be doing a bowel transit time test. And then as kind of an extra credit, you can do a stomach acid test, which we'll go over. In week 3, is when we'll really be talking about subjective data. And then week 4, we'll be talking about objective data. And then both your subjective and objective data will be due at week 4. And I'll outline all of this for you in the course shell. And then at week 8, you'll work on your draft protocol. So your draft protocol is what you're going to do with all of the information that you have collected on yourself. And so I'll give you kind of an initial structure in terms of a draft protocol, and that will help you moving forward into week 8 to 12, where then you're going to review your protocol and see where you can tweak, because at the week 12 end, you'll need to submit your final case study presentation, and I'll go over the structure for that as we get closer. Okay, so just some brief housekeeping. So I've been on tech support trying to figure out our online store and making sure everybody has student access to register and pay for Intro to Holistic Medicine 1, Intro to Holistic Medicine 2, and Jumpstart to Healthy Eating. So those are the 3 course offerings. If you have already paid for Intro to Holistic Medicine 1, there's an upgrade. I did like a coupon code, and I'm trying to kind of flush that out and make sure that it's working properly. So bear with me. I'll be sending an email out later today with the week 1 course material and information as well. So once I've confirmed, again, that's kind of why I was a little bit behind jumping on live, because I was going back and forth with them. So I'll solidify that online store for people to register. You'll be able to, if you haven't completed Intro to Holistic Medicine 1, if you register within the first 4 weeks, we will do a BOGO where you get a buy one, get one free, where you'll have Intro to Holistic Medicine 1, which is already pretty much completed. And that is your nutritional assessment, all of that. And then you'll be able to combine that with this course. So it's $297 for the 2 courses together. If you've paid in your $110, we just deduct that from the $297. I think it's like $187. That is the total. So I'll just make sure that the online store is working properly. Naturally, Jumpstart to Healthy Eating, which we go over tomorrow. I teach that class tomorrow evening at 8 p.m. That class is $97. That's a 4-week class. With both courses, you gain access to Holistic Life app. So I know it's kind of confusing. We do have kind of 2 apps, one that has our courses and our communities in, Hey Tim, and then one that goes along with the course material. So for Jumpstart to Healthy Eating, it does have an app companion. Once you gain access to your Holistic Life app, which is totally free to download, you will have access to track all of your data within there, so you can submit your data in there. You also can submit your survey and questionnaire that you have to complete within that app as well. So we'll discuss that as we kind of get more deeper into the course. I know that there has been some payment plan issues with that, so I'll make sure that I resolve it and send that out. If you need anything throughout the course, No, it's totally fine. I'm just trying to flush it all out and make sure that it's really easy to understand and grasp. So please don't feel bad that you need additional assistance. I know there was another individual who had reached out to me on Messenger from last night, and I'm getting through all of your messages. So I'm going to try to resolve it with tech support first. Sometimes it can be a little arduous with tech support because, I'll explain it and then I feel like I'm getting gaslit for like the first half. So bear with me. I will get it resolved within this first week or so. So we'll get it all together. So I kind of take it one step at a time. So yes, feel free to reach out if you have any confusion. I know our last course, kind of the way that I structured it is a little bit different than I restructured it. So I'm trying to make it a more of a user-friendly experience. So for right now, feel free to reach out. Oh no, it's definitely not. Everyone's kind of having their own little, even me. So, tech is great when it works, and tech can be a little bit frustrating. So if we all just are a little patient together, I'm sure we can work together. I'm kind of used to, those aspects of it and working together to be able to get it. So the biggest thing is communication and making sure you communicate your needs and what's going on. Please don't not communicate because then I won't know. And so if you communicate, it's really good feedback for me so that I can make adjustments on my end. So yes, indeed, of course. Yes, for sure. Okay, so we are going to walk through the syllabus. I will be emailing the syllabus out as well. The way that it should work, you should get a course catalog. Hold on one second. Okay. All right, cool. So tech support messaging me back. So we are going to walk through the syllabus. I will be emailing the syllabus out to you. Again, we're going for our accreditation. So I have to make sure that everything is formatted properly. So here is how the course is laid out. It's a 3 CU credit course class. Format is in video and guided assignments. And then we have our quote unquote live labs, where that's where we do more of our breaking down of the data that we have. So the more that you kind of get on top of, completing your questionnaire, doing your symptom tracker, doing your subjective and objective protocols, the more that this information is going to come to life for you, especially in a lab type class, which is what this is. It's a very science-based class. Out of your grading structure, your assignments and reflections are about 30% of your grade. So that's your discussion. So I'll make in the communities, there'll be an Intro to Holistic Medicine 2 discussion thread, and then I'll start putting the discussion topics underneath there. So you'll just need to go in there and, respond on a weekly basis. Also, too, I definitely encourage you to engage with the content. I tend to release 6 videos per week on YouTube underneath our playlist. I don't think I've gotten our playlist out yet for Intro to Holistic Medicine 2. So be patient as we kind of get back in to this week. Your participation does include watching videos, responding to discussions, and practically applying the information that you're being able to learn. So not just, observing it, but actually doing the work. Your protocol outline is also 20% of your grade. So that's the one that's due at week 8. And that outlines, just kind of a basic draft protocol that we'll go over. And then there'll be a protocol for that and a format rather. And then at the end, your finalized project is about 30% of your total grade. Everything is within HIPAA compliant standards and HIPAA compliant guidelines. So I will review a little bit of that just so that you have that information in mind. So this information will all be on your syllabus. All right, let's see. All right, this week's focus is going to be understanding the holistic view of detoxification, dispelling common myths and fads in detoxification, and again, really working on that therapeutic order and establishing your therapeutic order. Building upon the objective and subjective awareness, we're going to just begin to elevate ourselves in our scientific thought process. Hey, boss, hey, Abe, and we're going to continue working on that. So those are our goals for this week, was really just to understand what detoxification is, what detoxification isn't, and how to structure that. So we're going to get started with that. Any questions, please put them in the chat. I'm happy to answer them as we go along. Okay. So let's talk about detox theory and misconceptions in detoxification. So detoxification is not a quick fix. So many people use it as a very reactionary approach. You know, they're not feeling well, they have symptoms, they don't know where these symptoms are for. And so we see a lot of crash detoxing. So those are like the juice cleanses and the water fast. You know, back in my family practice, we had detox services. We had basic, advanced, and expert detoxification services. So our basic detoxification services used our body's own ability to detoxify. So some of those treatments were our ionic foot detox, which is a bioenergetic cleanse. We used an infrared dry sauna, which really heats the body up internally and allows for, our body to, our immune system to be stimulated and us to burn things off and then excrete toxins through our pores. We would use steam, which really helped more with the skin, so like sunburns and things like that, and just, general skin relief. And then we also, let me see, so a steam, foot detox, dry sauna. I think those were our common basic detoxes. I'm sure I'm missing one of them, but using the body's own ability to detoxify, because we have what we call drainage pathways, which we'll talk about next week. We'll talk about the primary and secondary eliminatory organs and how those work. So that's why it's really important to understand what you're doing with the body from a scientific perspective, and you're not just shocking the body. So back in the day when I used to have my practice, people would come in from, let's say, a hard, long weekend, and they'd be like, they'd want to do a foot detox. And, let's say I saw them last week and they were eating, fast food and toxic food and just, eating whatever. And now this week they wanted to come in, do their foot detox. And now they want to do a juice cleanse or a water fast or something that is really harsh on the body. That's not proper detoxification. That's shocking your system. And so we want to make sure that we acknowledge that. Also, too, your blood sugar may not be stable enough to do just juice cleanses. So blood pressure and blood sugar dysregulation. So can throw the entire system off, because remember, your blood sugar actually stabilizes your health of your body. So not having that stabilization, and let's say just, shocking your system with, let's say, fruit or glucose, that can be very dangerous because it can drive your glucose up and then you crash. So also too, there are a lot of like fruit cleanses that I've noticed out there, like, papaya, watermelon, all kinds of different fruit only cleanses. And again, thinking about your blood sugar, getting kind of out of this fad perspective. And that's why we really use data when we are practicing detoxification, either with ourselves or with a patient, because there really is no one size fit all. One thing that I learned a long time ago is we actually don't know all the things that we've been exposed to, because the body encapsulates toxicity. And what do I mean by that? It drives toxicity deeper and deeper and deeper. Hey, Jay. Hey, Houdini, into the cell wall. And so it becomes more difficult to be able to assess what toxins are actually in the system. And so because of that, when we start to kind of shake things up in the body and we start releasing those toxins, you don't want the body to go into a healing crisis. So what is a healing crisis? That's where the body starts to exhibit, even more symptoms than they did before. So some detox reactions or detox symptoms can include things like skin reactions, fatigue, swelling, retaining water, those sorts of things. Those can be, hey, don't sip. Good to see you. Those can be often signs of, detox reactions within the body. So we do want to be mindful of that. Detoxification is actually ongoing elimination. So it's supporting the body's ability to, thank you for the heart me, to eliminate both primary and secondary organs. And so that's why we do it gently and we do it more nutrient supportive. So that's really our first step, is making sure that all the nutrients are supported within the body first. And that's following the proper therapeutic order, which we'll talk more in depth a little bit later on. And so that's also why we started with Intro to Holistic Medicine 1, which talks about your nutrient deficiencies, and making sure that those are supported, because if those nutrient deficiencies are not supported and we try to go detoxify our body, then what happens, we're going to be driving more inflammation, because don't assume that you know everything that's in the body. Thank you for the shares and the likes. Thank you so much. Because what I have learned is those toxins, again, they drive deeper and deeper and deeper into the cell wall. And so when you start to detoxify the body out, the body can express those particular symptoms. There is a lot of testing that we can do for detoxification. So I will review that later on, probably when we get into objective data. So I'll go over some of the different testing options and the therapeutic order that there is. Naturally, in these intro level courses, I start you off with more in-home testing. So learning how to test yourself through like bowel transit time, stomach acid testing, urine, pH testing. So you can get the hang of that scientific method. And then eventually you can build up to understanding labs and biochemistry the more you go on in this practice. So there's lots to the world of testing and lots to the world of understanding your testing, and it's deeply nuanced. So I may record kind of a little like a lunch and learn on that, just because it's so fun and that's my jam. We will talk about clinical and personalized strategies. I'll bring in some of the case studies that I've done and some of the things that I have found and pulled out of people's bodies. You would be absolutely horrified. I know I was. At a certain point in school, I just remember going, oh my gosh, we're exposed to this, we're exposed to that, we're exposed to this, we're exposed to that. And at the end of the day, how much exposure can we really have? Like, oh my gosh. And it can be very overwhelming. So that's why we're going to be really low and slow. And we're not going to guess, we're going to test in the body. So just so we're aware of that. All right, proper therapeutic order. As we have talked about before, we want to establish that foundation for our health. So those are our foundational health. So obviously we can't detoxify the body if we're not drinking adequate amounts of water. Why? Because those toxins are not going to move. The body will hold on to them and then create more inflammation. So if a patient is chronically dehydrated, it makes no sense to then offer them a detoxification program or a detoxification protocol, because that's going to make them sicker because they're not properly hydrating themselves. Also, too, if their nutrition is really off, if they're actually putting more toxins in, hold on one second. Perfect. Yeah. So if they are putting more toxins in their body, either eating fast food, overly processed food, high sugar, high fat, high sodium food, naturally detoxification in those instances is not going to be helpful because they're already depleting their bodies. Remember, detoxification requires energy. So if the person already is really fatigued, if the person already doesn't have any energy and you go to try to detox them, what's going to happen? They're going to be depleted even more. So I usually, by the time I would see patients, they would come in very nutrient depleted, not a lot of energy. And what do I mean by nutrient depleted and not a lot of energy? I mean not waking up refreshed in the morning, not having that afternoon crash. So you wake up refreshed in the morning, you go throughout the entire day with no energy lapses, and then you very gently, go into sleep. Yes. Definitely spring water is important, but we will talk a little bit more about water for detoxification, because not all water is created equal. So we will talk about some options with that when we focus mainly on the hydration. So great question. Yes, spring water is definitely acceptable for detoxification, but we can use other waters as well to assist. Hey, Crazy Food, good to see you. So we want to establish our foundations as well. The last thing for our foundations to keep in mind is rest. So if a patient is not actually resting, if they're not sleeping properly, then it's not going to be, healthy for them to detoxify. Now, with that being said, in the Chinese time clock, between those late early morning hours, like 1 and 3, that's when the liver and that's when the kidneys are dumping. So you'll find that patients that have toxicity need will wake up at that 1 to 3 a.m. mark to void and urinate, because that's when the kidneys and the liver are dumping. Think of it kind of as like a recycling time. So if you wake up at those hours, every morning or every other morning, just know that your organs, your eliminatory organs, are giving you a sign. Also, in those earlier morning, like even later, like 4 or 5, that's when your lungs are also detoxifying as well. Yeah, it's really cool. There's so much that the body tells us that we're not taught. That 1 to 3 is liver, kidney, and then we have our later, like the 4 to 5, that's more of our lung. So we'll see a lot of times if patients have been exposed to inhalants. So inhalants would be like mold or chemical inhalants, like what's going on in Tennessee right now with the whole I think it's like the Starlink thing or whatever that Elon is doing, and that Tennessee town is being exposed to a lot of the inhalants from all those generators. So inhaling those in, because your lungs are a primary eliminatory organ. And so things like asthma, things like chronic respiratory conditions, things like congestion, chronic congestion, sinus infections, all of those things are all signs that your body really needs to detoxify. But again, we don't know what's in the body, so we have to be careful. That's why following therapeutic order is so important, because we want to build the body's ability to really just stay healthy and stable first before we're going to eliminate. The body needs additional energy to be able to detox, so it needs your baseline energy just to get through your day and do all your things. And then if you're going to detox, it's going to need additional energy on top of that. So that's why we make sure that the energy of the body is back to stable. We don't just jump in to detoxification in a clinical and a professional practice, because it can actually harm the patient. So I see all over the interwebs. It literally makes my eye twitch a little bit. So I see a lot of different things. One of the things that I see all over the place is parasite cleanses, right? So not everything is a parasite, okay? I know that there are parasites, and there's lots of reasons you would be exposed to a parasite. You eat sushi, you go travel and are swimming in, waters that are, different from what you're used to, eating contaminated food, not washing your hands. There are lots of different reasons why you can be exposed to parasitic infections. But again, the parasites have to have an environment to which they can thrive in. So it's not about going and chasing after the parasites and doing all these wormwood protocols and doing all these licorice root protocols and all of those things. It's about making sure that your whole digestive system and your gut integrity isn't creating an environment that those parasites love to live. What do I mean? So if you're not breaking down, let's say, your stomach acid, you're going to be not fully digesting those proteins. So they're going to be going into the small intestines undigested. Those big molecules are going to go undigested in the small intestines. Because they're going in undigested, they will trigger yeast, and then they will trigger bacterial overgrowth, or what we know as dysbiosis. So that yeast and bacterial overgrowth is an amazing environment for parasites to thrive in, right? So what am I going to do? Am I going to go chase after the bugs, or am I going to focus on the environment that makes the environment uninhabitable for the bugs? That's what I'm going to do first and foremost when I'm practicing proper therapeutic order. It's about getting the system stabilized first, and then you're working through. Another thing too that I see a lot of is trying to market and detox out viruses, right? So you can't detox out a virus, right? Thank you for the roses. Viruses, once your body has been exposed to them, it triggers antibody responses. So think of that almost as like your immune system supercomputer, right? Once your body has been exposed to that virus, your body is then going to create antibodies to be able to remember that virus if it's ever been exposed to it. Viruses will weaken the system for sure. I've seen it time and time again, from HSV to all different HSVs. I think there's about 7 or 8 different HSVs. Most people think about HSV2, which is more either vaginal or oral. HSV1 is common, where you get all the blisters, and then HSV2, like your herpes simplex. But there's also other viruses as well, like Epstein-Barr, which can tend to trigger autoimmune responses. That's another virus. And so, and COVID, people are having lots of challenges with COVID and long haulers COVID, especially because they've been exposed to these viruses. So there are a lot of challenges on the system, but we don't want to break therapeutic order. Again, we don't want to get reactionary. If we get reactionary, what happens is that we start to think like a medical doctor or like an allopathic doctor. We are not allopathic doctors. We don't treat disease. What we do in the holistic medicine space is we support the body's ability to heal itself, and then we stimulate the body's ability to heal itself. So we trust our body enough to know that if we create a healthy environment that's conducive for healing, the immune system will get rid of it, or be able to lower the viral load, or the parasites won't be habitable, etc. So we'll start to look at that. We'll also touch on environmental exposures. I do have another environmental questionnaire, which I may pull out as well. So you can really start thinking about, the things that you commonly use, things like your medications, over-the-counter medications, what's in those, things like your supplements, they have a lot of fillers and binders in them. Food products, etc., like your herbicides, pesticides, GMOs, your food dyes, additives, colorings, your sugars, your processed sugars. So there's a lot of things that are hidden just in those. But we also think about our water. We get 50% of our water from our shower, believe it or not. And so making sure that our water is filtered, understanding how to check your municipality to see what your tap water has in it, also to actually learn how to test your water to see what's in your water. And then things that are put on your skin, so your beauty products, because those are going to absorb in and then go to different areas of the body. We also look at cleaning products, and so things that you use to clean, because again, those are inhalants. Also, we look at environmental hazards for your profession and occupation. So let's say if you're a hairdresser and you're breathing those fumes in all the time, or you work for the shipyard, or you're a farmer, or whatever profession that you have, sometimes there's more exposures. Even with teachers, right? So you would think, oh, teachers are in buildings. I have seen so much mold exposure with teachers just because they're typically teaching in older buildings. The budgets aren't that great at a lot of different schools. And so it's being able to recognize the signs. Hey, Kayla, thank you so much for emailing that to me. I will respond later on. So I did get the phonetics, so I'm going to practice now. I've got that phonetic pronunciation. So thank you. Hey, NC Girl, NBA. Thank you guys for tapping the screen and sharing the live. So those are some of the things that we'll consider with that. So our water, and then other things we can kind of start to think about is things like our clothing. It's actually been sprayed. A lot of our clothing is sprayed with fire retardants, even our sheets and various different at-home products that are used for that. So we'll go through that information. I have it broken down into water, into cleaning products, into your beauty products as well. So I break it down for you so you can really begin to understand, because it's a lot of information. And so again, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Don't try to absorb all of this information at once. It will come over time. But we want to remove toxins from our environment before we start, adding things into our system. That's just being more proactive instead of reactive. So we want to support our body's natural ability to heal itself by, of course, taking the pressure off, but then making sure our nutrition is healthy, our hydration is healthy, that we're getting enough rest. So we'll look at those metrics as well. And we'll also be checking our specimens and beginning to look at our symptoms of our body, like our urine color, like our Bristol stool test, like those different data points objectively, so that we're, again, not guessing, we're actually testing. And so we will also touch a little bit on structural issues. So your musculoskeletal system a lot of times is like a circuit breaker to what's going on nutritionally. So biochemically is going to be more on the macro level, micro level, and then your structural system is going to be more on the macro level. So if you have a lot of joint fatigue, aches and pains, or even joint swelling, stiffness, etc., and no immediate injury, that can be a sign of an autoimmune response. So we'll also determine that, and I'll help you to kind of begin to see your body and look at your body. We want to be more proactive instead of reactive. So you don't want to wait until these things happen. We want to assess the signs. So over the course of this 12 weeks, you're really going to be thinking about your body a lot differently than you have before. Again, we're going to be looking at nutrient deficiencies, accumulated toxins, overall organ health and function, and then areas of prevention. So we're not suppressing symptoms. We're not going to chase after all the bugs, even with viruses. When we address viruses in the system, there's various different levels that we address viruses beyond antivirals. A lot of times we can get that viral load really, really low, almost to undetectable. But again, our bodies need to and have already established those antibodies, and that's just how the body works. It's a memory system. It's a catalog system. The trick is not reactivating those viruses. And again, like I said, creating an environment where those parasites can thrive, or having an environment where you're feeding mold, feeding yeast in the system, things like brain fog, oral thrush, chronic yeast infections, chronic sinus infections are all signs of mold exposure, chronic headaches, those sorts of things. I've even seen seizures as a response. We'll also touch a little bit on certain toxins within the medical field. So we'll talk a little bit about things like gadolinium and MRI, CT contrast, and X-rays. And we'll talk a little bit more about how those impact the body as well, because I know there's a lot of concerns around those particular toxins. I will give you lots of resources when we get to those periods. So next week is going to be kind of more on the heavier side with that. And so I'll give you some good reference guides, some good books and things like that. There's one book in particular that's amazing that I'll have you guys get, that was written by an MD pediatrician, which is just an amazing book. And we'll go over that next week. And I'll drop that. Let's see. Okay. So I think we talked mainly about that therapeutic order. And of course, we'll solidify it home. Hey, Liz, good to see you. Welcome in. Welcome in. Thank you for tapping the screen, sharing the live. All right, I just want to review this therapeutic order. Remember, we're not jumping into cleanses. We're not doing water fast, juice fast, parasite cleanses, fruit fast, etc. We're not jumping into that. That's reactive. That's healing from a state of fear, not healing from a state of real education on therapeutic order and how the body works. First things first, we want to establish the foundation of health. What does that mean? Again, we want to make sure we're drinking half our body weight in ounces in water at minimum, making sure we're eating adequate amounts of protein, because protein repairs and heals the body, but furthermore keeps the blood sugar stable. If our blood sugar is going up and down, we're not going to have that foundation of healing that's going to assist us. Also, making sure that our rest and our sleep is adequate to be able to sustain that. And then also looking at, not putting the toxins back in. So we'll have to start kind of a plan. Be really patient with yourself in terms of eliminating toxicity out of your environment. It is going to take some time, and it's a stair step. So, maybe in the beginning when I first learned this information, I would start off with like one of those little, almost like a Brita filter, water filter. They weren't great, but they took some of the things out, right? And it was affordable. And, I was a poor college student, and a mom, so that's what worked. And then eventually I upgraded to, like a service. I'd pay $50. They would come in, they bring the bottles. I've done services where they hook the water up to the water all the way up to a whole at-home unit. So there is, a time, I'm not an advocate of just throwing everything away. So it's like, once you learn this stuff, it's not about, throwing all your products out and starting from scratch, because that's more reactive. It's about educating yourself and replacing those products as they come up. So I'll give you some resources for that. Again, this is definitely a foundations course. It's more of a scientifically driven course, but it's also a really deep course as well. So buckle in, everyone. And then we'll talk about what things need to be stable before you detoxify a patient. So we know blood sugar, we know hydration, but we also will talk a little bit about emotions and emotional health, and making sure that somebody is emotionally ready to detox. So your physical manifestation of dis-ease, right, is an expression of your mental and emotional. So when a patient detoxes, let's say their liver, they're also going to really be releasing out lack of communication, which leads to frustration, which leads to anger and resentment. And so all of those things begin to come up as we start to shift that liver meridian. So I will also touch on that, and so you guys have an understanding. Some of the other more accelerated detoxes, let's say like a juice fast or a water fast, those are recommended as greater tier detoxes, but typically we use those in more of a spiritual capacity. So if you're called to do that, again, not reactionary, but more proactive, and we'll make some distinctions about that. All of our weak systems, which is why we do all of the testing, subjective and objective, because we want to catch these weak systems. We want to support them. So what's a weak system? Let's say, for instance, your urine is always this kind of like amber, dark yellow, right? That lets us know that you're probably dehydrated. And so the first thing is you want to make sure that you're drinking half your body weight in ounces in water. And so that's going to make sure that you are providing your cells proper hydration. If you're not, if you are drinking that amount of water, we may need to look at the quality of your water. So these are just things that we consider when we're looking at your weakened systems. When we look at structural integrity as well, again, we look at the joints and making sure that those are free and clear. Toxins love to store themselves in joint capsules because there's space in them, and there's like area within the synovial fluid that it can kind of sit in. And so that's where autoimmunity happens. Think osteopenia, think osteoporosis, think RA, think osteoarthritis, those sorts of pathologies that are present that are triggered based off of toxicity. Another one also to consider is fibromyalgia, which we consider a detox disorder. So when the body is really depleted nutritionally and then has an overabundance of toxicity, we typically will have those pain centers. And so conventional doctors, again, are not as aware or is trained about toxicity unless it's like large toxicity, unless it's like lead toxicity or mercury toxicity, and the blood levels are sky high, but they still are not as inept in terms of being able to detox those things out. We're seeing that on the federal level as RFK Jr. is talking about utilizing chelation services for autistic patients. And when I say chelation, there's levels to chelation. And chelation is spelled Chelatted. So sometimes you may see it and mispronounce it. So just so you're aware. And so he's talking about the heavy metals that exist with a lot of autistic children. And so hooking them up to IV, so IV chelation. So IV chelation, again, very risky, very difficult. And remember, we don't even know all the things that the body has been exposed to. Even if you tried to test even if you spent thousands of dollars in testing today, the body's going to hide things deeper into the cell wall. And so that's part of Herring's law of cure. That's just how the body is resilient. So the body will encapsulate toxicity deeper into the tissues to be able to kind of keep it safe. That's where tumors, growths, masses, any sort of things of abnormality, fibroids, all of those things are just the body's way of encapsulating toxicity. Because remember, dis-ease happens because of nutrient deficiencies in the body. So not having enough nutrition, thank you for the follow, and then being nutrient depleted. And then the body doesn't have enough kind of gas in the gas tank, and then it begins to build up with toxicity in the system. And then as a response to building up that toxicity, the organ function is diminished. And then as a response of the organ function being diminished, then disease happens as a response to that. And so we can look at the pathology. Remember, pathos is disease, ology is the study of. So when we're looking at that, we're not looking at it from a diagnose and manage model. We're looking at it from what organ systems are impacted, what organ systems need nutrition, and what clues is the body providing itself. Remember, we don't guess, we test. So we're going to really think about our bodies from a detoxification perspective like a scientist. We're not going to look at it like a reactionary, and we're definitely not going to look at it like a supplement salesperson or some online health guru or whatever. We are really inundated with that these days. Everyone kind of has a 3 steps to this or a quick process to that. And let me tell you, from all the years of practice and experience, there's really no quick fix. You can't even push the body faster than what the body feels comfortable. And so if you try, that's where you're driving more inflammation. You can burn your liver out, burn your kidneys out, burn your lymph system out. So we do things very slowly. We'll also look at contraindications around detoxification. So for instance, if a patient is on currently like chemotherapy or radiation, there are timeframes that we have to make sure that we're not interfering with the current treatment. So if a patient comes to you and they are on an active chemotherapy or radiation plan, we have to be very careful, non-invasive, really gentle methodology, but also to any kind of deeper cell cleanses have to wait until a minimum of 6 months to a year after that chemo, because what you'll be doing is flushing out the chemo, which then could potentially affect those cancer cells if it's being used with that. So detoxification is really nothing to rush into. It's also nothing that really should be promoted as a first line strategy. Again, I know a lot of people do that, mostly because they don't understand therapeutic order. They don't understand how the body works. So they will market or educate people to do, let's say, a watermelon fruit fast or a papaya fruit fast. Now, again, there are certain fasts like that in the Ayurvedic tradition, but in the Ayurvedic tradition, what they use is the doshas to be able to base those traditions off of. So I'm going to teach you from a Western medical perspective, Western medical meaning anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, pathology, those particular perspectives. That's how we learn. Where we're looking at those Eastern modalities, we'll infuse some of that in. So Ayurveda is originating from India. That's Indian style medicine. And so they use a dosha system instead of anatomy and physiology. They're going to categorize people into 3 doshas: the kapha, the vata, and the pitta. There's whole studies with that. This is not an Ayurvedic class by any stretch of the imagination. And I don't know if, I could teach a basic Ayurvedic class, but when you get into more advanced Ayurveda, that's where you really want to train with somebody who is really focused and specialized in that. Same thing with TCM, which is traditional Chinese medicine, which is closely related to acupuncture. There are certain methodologies of detoxification, and acupuncture just in of itself is a form of detoxification, as you are opening up those the chi or the prana or the energy that has been stagnated. And as you're opening up those energetic channels, you're naturally going to detoxify emotions, heavy metals, chemicals, etc. But it is very low and slow. Typically, it's very gentle, and they do have their own methodology, like reading tongue, pulse reading, etc., that help them to determine what they're going to do and when. I find acupuncture is really helpful for the nervous system and emotional health and emotional healing, as well as coupled with homeopathy, which is a low frequency modality. TCM or acupuncturists will also use traditional Chinese herbs as a methodology as well. And so again, that is a different area of study. I will perhaps touch on that a little bit, but you would need to do an additional class if you're interested in that. So the idea is really to support the body's ability to heal itself, open up those drainage pathways, get those eliminatory organs, your primary and your secondary eliminatory organs, in a healthy way. We're also going to split up and look at the liver in phase 1 and phase 2. So you may not be aware, but the liver needs certain nutrients in order to have toxins enter into it. The body will encapsulate toxins as fats and then send it over this enzyme, this I think it's 450 enzyme, and it sends it over and then converts the fat into water and then needs additional nutrients without a lot of antioxidants and amino acids to then go from phase 2 to phase 3. And phase 3 is going to be your kidneys. So your kidneys help support your liver. So just giving you a taste of our therapeutic order when we're talking about detoxification. So when you see the next person doing their fad detox, they were eating a hamburger yesterday and now today they're doing a juice water fruit papaya cleanse. You can side-eye them and eyebrow raise because that they don't necessarily understand therapeutic order. And in essence, they're just shocking their body. So they're going from one extreme to another extreme. And so how the body fares with that, we'll see. It's giving your body a little bit of a whiplash. The body was not made to go from one extreme to another. If we look at nature to help us determine, how our bodies were made to treat, we look at, the sun doesn't strain to come up, the grass doesn't shoot up, these things happen gently, progressively over a period of time. So please be gentle with yourself and others. All right. So as we are closing out our dead horse here, why therapeutic order matters. It prevents over-treatment, right? So there is such a thing as over-treatment. A lot of times we get patients from conventional medicine who have been over-treated. So they've been given really aggressive treatments, heavy medications, no attention to diet, no attention to water. They've been given, radiation or chemo or whatever. They've been giving a lot of pharmacological intervention. And so their bodies are really worn out and depleted from that. Also, too, we want to build that resilience from the ground up. And what do I mean by that? Meaning that we don't want to, affect an already shaky system. When we're thinking about building a house, we're going to start again with that foundation and make sure that foundation is strong so that it doesn't happen again, right? So we want to really help educate our patients to build healthy habits. And as they're building healthy habits, they're doing this as part of their regimen. So we typically, in a preventative capacity, typically spring and fall are times that we would detox. The reasoning for that is because you eat kind of heavy in the winter time, and then you eat a little bit lighter in the summertime. So because of the weather and because of nature. So fall and spring are transitionary times where you really good to kind of clean your organs out. From that, we do one individual organ at a time. So I'll kind of go into some of that. And then fall, we do the opposite. It also, again, aligns with the body's natural ability to heal itself. So again, we follow therapeutic order, and we believe that the body was made, perfectly made, to be able to heal itself, and it was given everything that it needs to heal itself. It's just our job to support the body in that ability, not to, try to force the body, coerce the body, pressure the body, any of those things, because we don't want to cause any healing crises or reactions, et cetera. We want to practice first do no harm and actually be in integrity with that. Also, too, therapeutic order matters in detoxification because it really informs our detoxification protocol creation later. So we'll teach about what the findings mean, and of course how we can apply that in building our own detox protocol for either. We'll start off with just a 4-week protocol in this class, and then we'll build up from there. So I follow this very simple methodology, and it's really easy to remember. And so it's build, detox, rebuild. What do I mean by that? So we want to build our nutrient foundation and begin organ support before detoxification begins. And so that makes sure that all the nutrient depletions are in order, electrolytes, blood sugar, adrenal glands, minerals, all of that is nicely supported. So we're building the body and we're giving the body a strong foundation before we detox. And so build, and then we prep the body. We let the body know that we're going to be able to detox with things like dry sauna, Epsom salt baths, steam treatments, things like that. We'll go over some different methodologies for detox prep. And then we work on an eliminatory pathway when the body is properly supported. So whether that is the liver, the kidneys, the large intestines, the blood in the lymph, the lungs, we want to stimulate the body's natural ability to detoxify itself first and foremost. And then from there, we want to execute a detox strategy that's going to assist that particular organ. So we're very intentional and very thoughtful with it. And then with any kind of detox or any kind of treatment, it actually does take some of the healthy things away. So let's say, for instance, when you're detoxifying your liver, it doesn't just take out the heavy metals, it doesn't just take out the mold, but it also can take out the minerals too. So we have to rebuild any nutrients that are lacking. So like restoring our gut flora, or replenishing minerals and electrolytes, or strengthening those particular terrain like let's say the lung tissue, if the lungs have been exposed to mold, that sort of thing. So there's a lot of different ways that we can do that nutritionally and energetically. So we'll go over that. But just this is your protocol: build, detox, and rebuild. And we'll talk about this 3-phase approach throughout this course. Naturally, like Intro to Holistic Medicine 1, we're going to do subjective and objective data. So I'm going to give you guys the subjective data out this week, so I'll put it in your course shell. I will work on that this evening for you. So your detox questionnaire will be in there. It's not due until week 4, but definitely print it out. And there'll also be a symptom journal as well that you'll be given that will also help you to look at your urine shades as well as the Bristol stool test. So you'll be able to, again, start using your body as an observation tool. We'll also look at your sweat as another metric to be able to determine kind of how your system is going. So those are subjective responses, and we'll use objective analysis. So in this class, we're going to do urinary pH, which looks at your antioxidants, your kidney, liver function. We'll look at bowel transit time, which looks at how your digestion, large intestine, small intestines is running, and give us some indication clues with there. And then as a bonus, we'll do a stomach acid test, which will look at how you're breaking down your proteins, which can also give us indication as to what's going on with your bowel transit time as well. So I'll show you how to do these tests at home very cheaply and have all the forms to be able to do that. If you have the Holistic Life app companion, those forms are all found within that. If not, I'll give you paper ones that you can print out and submit it. It's easier if you have them printed out and submit them for your final assignment and for your protocol that's due. Your draft protocol is due week 8, and then your final is due week 12. All right, so we are going to be tracking our different specimens. I'll give you a format to do that in. So before we close out today, I'll have you kind of start thinking about what specimens you'll be tracking. So urination, we're going to be looking at frequency, color, odor, and clarity. So this can indicate dehydration, kidney function, and possible toxin presence. So things like if you have ammonia smells, that can be an ammonia clearing issue. It could be a fermentation issue. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. Bubbles and infections and all kinds of things that happen. Chronic infections, which often happen when the liver is overly toxic and the kidneys are trying to support it. When we're looking at our bowel movements, we'll look at frequency. So how often you're going to the bathroom, having a bowel movement. You should have a bowel movement every time you eat. It'll be in the course shell. And so I'll send it out to everybody via email and in the course shell. So we'll get it out this week. So yeah, I'll make sure you guys have it. So frequency, how often you're actually having a bowel movement. So every time you eat, you put it in. It should take no less than or no more than 18 hours to come out. And so we'll test that and kind of see where you're at with that, and making sure that every time you eat. So if you eat, 3 times a day, technically you should be having 3 bowel movements. So if you're only having 1 bowel movement, or having a bowel movement every other day, or only having a bowel movement once a week, I've seen people only have them once a week, that is a sign that your body is incredibly toxic. And then there'll be a Bristol stool chart. I'm sure you guys have seen those before. The Bristol stool charts kind of go over, different aspects of your stool and how they look. And so there's 1 through 7, which is going to reflect digestive health, transit time, and some gut microbiome balance. So microbiome would be a combination of your bacteria, if there's yeast, if there's parasites. So that would be an initial indication. You're also going to look at your perspiration. So amount of perspiration. So like my husband, for instance, he sweats up a storm. I do not sweat as much, right? So we'll look at the amount. We'll look at if there's an odor or not, if there's timing. So if you're naturally, if you're working out, you're going to sweat. But if you're just sitting there sweating, that's a whole nother thing. My husband sweats while he sleeps, which is, when his body's resting. And then we'll look at triggers as well that trigger your body to perspire. So if you have, let's say we call an endotoxin, which is a toxin that targets the endocrine organs. If you have those in the system, like mold is one of them, that can trigger things like hot flashes. So that shows us detoxification pathway efficiency and potential for hormone imbalances, especially with the liver. And then lastly, we'll track your energy levels, how you are in the morning when you wake up. Are you refreshed? In that afternoon, that 2 to 4 time frame, are you crashing or are you sustaining? And then that evening energy level pattern, are you just like totally crashing out, or are you tired but wired? If you're tired and tired, what does that look like? So that also correlates with eliminatory efficiency and toxic burden. So your symptom journal really becomes a very powerful diagnostic tool. Again, you don't need a doctor to do this. You can be your own doctor, where you can start to track these patterns daily for the next week to establish your baselines. This is not about judging yourself, beating yourself up. This is more about observing and using the data to inform a personalized protocol, which we'll draft in week 4 and then naturally we'll finalize in week 12. So you'll be walking away from this class with a detox protocol designed specifically for you based off of the data that we have collected. And then once we collect the data, we have several detoxification methods that we'll be working through. So learning how to use nutrition, so whole foods that are rich in antioxidants, fiber, phytochemicals, phytonutrients to support liver and kidney function. We'll talk about more strategic water intake. We'll talk about things that we can put in our water, different types of water that help us to eliminate cellular waste and also help us with our kidneys and flushing that. We'll even get into some breath and some movement practices, some more specific exercises that stimulate lymphatic flow and, of course, increase your circulation to eliminate. And then we'll talk about various therapeutic modalities such as hydrotherapy, sauna, bodywork techniques that also assist in detoxification. And then we'll go into a little bit of the supplementation side of things as well. So this is kind of how we're going to look at our detoxification methods. This is very basic, so we have to crawl before we walk, run, and sprint and do marathons. And so we're going to start off basic and then we'll build up from there. So this week's tasks for you, hold on one second, let me pull this up. Cool. This week's tasks are going to be, I'll put it in the course shell for you. You're going to download the detox questionnaire. It's not due until week 4, but definitely go through and start to complete it. The sooner you complete it, really the better. Hey, Lainey Bug. Hey, Spiritual Activist. Hey, Cameron. And then also too, there's a symptom journal template where we'll go over those particular aspects that we talked about, like the Bristol chart and urinary color, etc. The discussion prompt for this week that you'll be responding to is, what does detoxification mean to you? So what does that mean physically? What does that mean environmentally? What does that mean mentally? What does that mean emotionally? What does that mean spiritually? And what does that mean ancestrally? Remember, this week is, this week is the first week, but today is more of a shorter class that we kind of set the stage for the information. I'll be recording 6 videos that I'll post on YouTube, and I'll try to get it on TikTok as well. I've been trying to kind of play around with some different things. So I'll post those 6 videos as well. So it deepens your understanding before our Saturday's class, where we do 2 hours and we really get into more of this concept of therapeutic order. But the purpose of this, hey, Deborah, is really to expand your mind and get you thinking about detoxification in a more clinical way, not in this highly reactive, fear-based state that we often do. All right. So we are at the end of our class today. Does anybody have any questions? Anybody unclear about the syllabus? I will be emailing that out later today. I'll also be adding it to the course shell and be adding it to your Notion calendar. So you'll have that. You'll have access to that as well. And then we'll talk about, especially on Saturday, so start thinking about this, common detoxification experiences, concerns, or even goals that you may have. I know I've talked a little bit about some of the, hey, Angela, some of the concerns. Hey, much love. Hey, chaotic. And so I know I've talked a little bit about some of the experiences and concerns and goals that I've seen professionally, but I want to really hear from you. So spend some time thinking about it, and then with your journal prompt for this week, start to kind of write about it. Also engage with videos that I put out as well. That also helps me to stay engaged and stay, out front and center with the algorithms of said social media networks. I do cast out on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, IG, as well as TikTok. So whatever platform you prefer. Again, this video will be up for about a week before it'll be made public. So you can still access it just through the YouTube under the playlist Intro to Holistic Medicine 2. You'll see like something that says Detoxification and Elimination. And then from there, it'll go into the course shell after it has been recorded. So just like we did in Intro to Holistic Medicine 1, it'll be kind of the same system, just a little bit more refined. So we are done with our day 1, week 1 class on detoxification and elimination for Intro to Holistic Medicine 2. I'm hoping that it really began to get you thinking differently about detoxification and thinking, whoa, this is a totally different, much more vast world of treatment than perhaps I thought. We're going to get you out of the fads and get you out of the quick fixes and the reactivity, and get you out of buying all the pills and the potions and all these things, and really get you back to basics and really get you to help to understand the foundations of the body's eliminatory organs and how the body actually detoxes naturally, because all we're doing is supporting the body's ability to do that. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're not trying to fix the body, force the body, shock the body, none of those things. We're trying to be more matriarchal, less patriarchal, which means we're trying to be more loving, kind, more sincere with our system. So do you guys have any questions before I sign off for the day, the evening? It's kind of felt like a Monday today, but it's been a wild Wednesday, just with trying to get everything accomplished and balanced and that sort of thing. And I'll be back in on tech support, going through all the different things and making sure everything is working well. If you would like to register for the class, there's still time naturally to take advantage of our BOGO. I will send emails out. But that first link in my bio, which is a core pre-registration, I'll be sending out emails directly to that list. So if you post that, and then I will hopefully have our online store fully operational. I know some people had tried it and there was some different glitches. So I'll after this class, I'll be back on with the tech support and making sure that everybody has access to it. So Intro to Holistic Medicine 2 is a 12-week course broken down into 4 weeks. So there's 4 weeks. The first 4 weeks is all about setting the stage of therapeutic order, subjective and objective data. The second 4 weeks is all about the treatment modalities and what we do about our findings. And then the last 4 weeks is really refining clinical case studies around detoxification. So I'll be emailing you guys out the syllabus if you don't have it already, and making sure that everybody is in communication. So feel free to reach out on whatever platform works for you. It's not a bother at all. It's totally fine. I'd rather you reach out than not reach out. That way I know what's going on because I don't read minds. So please reach out. I am definitely open to assisting you so that I kind of know what's going on from that side of things. And I'll post in the shell and all of the things for this week. So look out on the socials, interact with everything. Any last questions before I log off for the evening? Nice big breath. Well, if there's no questions, we'll sign off. Tomorrow morning, I will be on live for 6 a.m. morning flow. So if you are not familiar with that class, it is an optional class. It's free. I stream it live, and it's 15 minutes of movement, 15 minutes of meditation. We do a Kundalini style meditation, 15 minutes of really journaling, or I've been kind of replacing a guided meditation with that time as well after we do all the other active meditations, more passive one. And then the last 15 minutes is planning your day. We will be discussing a little bit more about meal planning and kind of getting you into that idea. Speaking of meal planning, we do have a 4-week collective that starts tomorrow. That class I teach at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so check that out. First class, Jumpstart to Healthy Eating. We jump into macros and understanding macros and how to do it. If you're not familiar with macros, thank you for the roses. Macros are your proteins, your fats, and your carbohydrates that then you break down into your micronutrients, which help run your metabolism before we get to the body's ability to detoxify. So if you are a busy professional that has no time and running around like crazy, that is why I created Jumpstart to Healthy Eating. It's just a way, and I recorded a lot of that content when I was in the thick of all of it with my daughter and my business and all kinds of things. And so I had to really figure out very efficient ways to stay healthy and eat healthy. So that's where that class has come out. So look out for the emails, look out for the communications. I'm going to log off now and wrestle with tech support and make sure that all of this is together. So welcome to week 1 of Intro to Holistic Medicine 2, Detoxification and Elimination. I am your professor, Dr. Erica Steele. I'm a board certified naturopathic doctor. I have 7 degrees in my field. They're all in the natural healthcare space. I like to say that I went to school so you don't have to. I've treated over 40,000 patients in general family practice. So I've done a lot of detoxes, both myself as well as guided people through, and I will give you all the things, right? So the good, the ugly, and everything else in between, so that you guys can be safe, both with detoxing yourself as well as assisting other people through that process. So, all right, guys, I'm going to log off now. So bye TikTok. I'll see you guys later. See ya. All right. And bye Facebook and LinkedIn and IG. See you guys later.